Okay.
Well, blessings, everyone. We are here. It's Friday again. Can you believe it? Almost
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom. Does your body, is it like mine? Simi, I feel my body already going, is it time yet? Is it time? I woke up literally, is it time yet?
Yes.
Any minute
Yes.
now. Thinking about, I have a couple things to do. How can I get this done really quick so
Yes.
that I can so that I can start the Shabbat? And I just am so blessed. Welcome everyone that's here with us live on Zoom. Please know you are still welcome to come in. Anytime you're welcome to hop in with us. After we stop recording, we do have an after party. There is no telling what we talk about, but it's kind of like the afterglow after church when you used to hang out afterwards. We just sit and chat with each other, get to know each other a little better. So if you have time, you can leave when you want. You can stay or not stay. We just love you and we just kind of hang out with you for a little while. I want to say hi to everyone on Facebook that's watching with us. Thank you, Katie Foster, for being our co-host today. Also, she's our tech person behind the scenes helping let you in. So it is not too late. If someone else on here is listening, would you put the link over in the live feed so it makes it easy for those who might want to join us? So,
Yes.
couple things. I have to do the pre-announcements. Yay! Brenda is coming back. You'll see her Tuesday.
Yay.
Yay! So if you're listening, Brenda, we have just missed you. I did post proof
Yes.
of life of her that she's having such a great time. Darlene is back from her trip, so now she has company for the rest of her stay there in California on the beach. And I know Darlene is giving her like the tour, taking her to all these beaches. And I talked to Brenda last night and she just misses you all so much and loves you and can't wait to get back. Did you guys love, I want to hear yes over on Facebook. Did you love our Tuesday talk this week? We actually shared it with you. It's usually in our member portal and we shared it with you so you can kind of get a glimpse. I'm just going to tell you, it is nothing like when Brenda does it. I was just pinch hitting, but we had a good time on Tuesday. Also, our homeschooling on I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, we had a homeschooling call with Tamara. And I'm going to just tell you, that was my first time being in there. I was kind of co-hosting to make sure I could let people in for her. Oh my goodness. I'm not a homeschooler, but she's amazing. And not just her, but all the women who showed up and who are giving their suggestions on what they do and how they do it. So we broadcast that also live on Facebook. So you can kind of get a feel of what our calls are like. I am blessed this morning to have Simonette Cherapanov with us. She is actually does 2 of our calls every month, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what a blessing. I'm just like blown away by those all the time. And then, so Brenda will be back on Tuesday. And then I talked about the shared calls. And then the big announcement this week is this. We set out a survey. And if you haven't filled it out for us yet, would you please go in and do that for us? It is anonymous, so you can be brutally honest. I love negative feedback. And I hate to say it that way because it isn't negative. I really believe that it helps us grow. Kind of like when you build a muscle, you have to break things down to build things up. So I receive it without any hurt feelings. I love it. Yes, it's my baby, but when I hear it, I'm like, it's more importantly, it's serving you well. And if it's not serving you well, and I don't know how to fix it. So we've gotten some amazing feedback, Simi, amazing feedback. And one of the feedback was about our pricing structure for our membership group. And so I just want to address that here so everyone can hear it, whether you're a member, whether you're listening later, podcast, whatever, the replay. We heard you. We heard you. And so we sat down and we crunched it out and we submitted it to Abba and we said, Father, this is all in your hands. And it's more important. That we reach the masses, right? So if people are being not able to do things because of finances, first of all, you need to contact us. If you're like, nope, I can't do anything, but I really, really, really want to be in there, you need to contact us because price is never a reason not to be in there. We will support you. But we did change the price. And I'm going to promise you, Lord, I don't want to take this vow, Lord willing, we are not changing this price again. So it doesn't feel like we're all over the place, but I mean, we are really growing pains. Think about it. We've just been a year and a half old now. So in growing, we're trying to adapt to what your needs are. $19.99. That's it. We're done. That's the membership price for our Cafe members, Cafe Plus. There's not tiers. It's just one price. All of you who are already in, your price, if you're paying like 19, it won't go up. If you're paying 19.97, it won't go up to 19.99. It's just, if you're paying 39, 24.95, it will all go to, you will go down to 19.99. So we will adjust everyone. No one's going to have to pay more because you're punished because you came in late or anything. So we just want to make it so that it's available and you're comfortable sharing it with your friends. The other thing, you can just say, you don't have to like explain tiers and do all this stuff. You can just be like, this is what it is. This is what it cost. And it's simple for you. And so we want to encourage you for that. Encourage you to invite your friends, encourage you to come in and hang out with us and try us. We do ask that you kind of hang out with us with a few months, because we do invest a lot in you in the beginning. And that really helps if you say, okay, I'll stay for a few months with you at least. But you can cancel at any time, but we just love it if you just come in and let us guide you through it. Let us show you how everything works. You're going to be blown away. I mean, I need some amens. I need some girls with some testimonies in the comments of how much they're loving their membership. Not only do you get all the stuff in there, like all the calls and the trainings, but you're also getting this Slack community that I don't know, you guys, I love going in there. I love, like, now it's like I'm getting used to being in there. So now it's Katie. Why are you doing that face? Something else. So I love being in there because I can quickly send me a funny something I saw, and it's outside of Facebook. I don't have to worry about being audited. So I think that's all I have. Simi, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for hopping in. I mean, if people knew your resume, they'd be like, why is she coming on here for like free and just showing up? And it's because you're such a blessing. Thank you for being you.
I love being here. I love being here with all of you. I've been training Fridays and it's killing me. I miss you all. I love seeing Sombra there. Are you making your challah? No. I see you needing something.
She's amazing. We see Kim over here doing some work too. It's fun in here for all of you not on Zoom live. We see all the little pictures above and trying to see, there's tiny, and we're trying to see, and you could see you working in your house, preparing while you're listening. And it's so much fun. I mean, it literally brings tears to my eyes, and that seems like silly, but it does. Jacqueline, hi. I don't know if I've ever seen you before as I'm scrolling through. Hi, sweet girl. You're beautiful. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning.
Yeah, I just got your email this week for the first time and decided to check it out.
Oh, wonderful. I love it. Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to everyone. Well, we have a lot to cover today. So here we go. Simi, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to.
I don't think so. I'm going to do a quick overview. We have this Parsha today, and we're going to be starting Numbers chapter 8, verse 1, and we're going through. I still have vertigo. Looking down looks crazy to me. We're going through the end of chapter 12. So if you guys see me adjusting, it's because if I look down, I'm still a little dizzy. Okay. So we start with dedicating the Levites, all the process with them. We're going to talk about the second month of Passover. If any of you are wondering, like you have questions over what's this whole second Passover thing, that confused me for years. I'm pretty sure this just got put in there. I'm like, oh, this is where it says that. Apparently I didn't look before. Then we're going to talk about the cloud being their guide, right? This cloud that's going to just pick up and leave and show them where to go. We have a section in here about the trumpets, about when they use 2 trumpets to call everyone and 1 trumpet just to call the people, just to call the leaders to come in. And then the 2 trumpets is for everyone to go, or did I get that backwards? Anyway, I wrote it down. 2 trumpets sounded for everyone. 1 trumpet was for leaders. We talking about the journey from Sinai when they get up and leave during the second year. Hard to believe this has been only 2 years for them. We've got 70 elders that are going to be chosen to help Moses carry this burden. We're going to have quail show up. All of a sudden, the people are going to grumble and complain. This is the first time I think we're really hearing them other than the water. This is a pretty serious grumbling and complaining we're going to hear about. And we're going to hear about leprosy happening in the camp. So, we start out. Simi, when I first started reading this, I was like, this is like Simi's jam. She, like, when we start this out, I thought she was like, oh my God, I can't believe she picked me to do this part. And I didn't even know what this was about. If any of you know, Simi is our menorah sister. She loves her menorah. She'll teach you everything. Are you going to talk about how to potty train your children? Grab your menorah. No, I'm just kidding. But she like everything is all about because she's
I need to think about that one.
she's like, she probably could. She is like an amazing teacher of the creation gospel. She's actually trained certified with Halisa Alwine, and she does creation gospel. And literally, she can connect everything to that menorah. And when I saw this, these 7 lamps all of a sudden in front of this menorah, Simi, I just thought of you. And the first thing I thought of is, isn't it interesting that here they're about ready to get up and leave in the midst of all the chaos. They're going to get up and leave now of building this thing, getting all these instructions. And isn't it the same as when he created? All of a sudden he said, light be. And how does he start us out? How does he start this journey now? He starts it out by saying, basically, light be. Let's talk about the light. I'm going to tag to you now because that's what I got. I was just, the only thing I got on this was that the wicks were all facing inward. And I thought that was interesting that the wicks went inward, that the people could not say that, oh, God needs the light, that the light wasn't about that. So tell us about this menorah and these 7 lamps.
Well, it was interesting to me as I went over just to see. I love every year he shows me something new, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. What do you have this year? So I'm reading, and the going up, my connection, and I posted it on the portion if anybody wants to read it, because I like to listen to First Fruits of Zion. They'll have it, on audio, the 3 parts, the Torah portion, the half Torah, the prophets, and then the Behaalotecha, the New Testament. So I'm listening to it, and they have there something about the light, what was the menorah and all that, and the oil. Actually, it was about the oil of the lamp. And it makes a connection of what really the oil is all about, and it's for healing. And when you read in James, and it talks about if you're sick, call the elders and they will anoint you with oil. The word there is they will rub you with oil. So of course, I do doTERRA. I love essential oil. So I'm thinking, okay, that is, it's important that we know that it wasn't just, oh, let's put the little drop in the forehead and lay our hands on somebody and pray for them. No, if you're sick, you need practical help.
There's oil for that. There's an oil for that.
There's an oil for that. Yes. So I love that. But then when it said, as he ascended, because that's the name of the portion, then was immediately the connection with the mind of Messiah is in our executive brain function. That's where we reason, and just thinking about how our brain works and how we don't think when we don't feel safe. We don't think when we don't feel loved or connected. And so just practical ways of seeing the scripture, and, the menorah is there. And if you think about it, that went ahead of them, the 3 days journey. And I'm thinking, wow, here you have the tabernacle is right in the middle. You have 3, the divisions were 3 tribes here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. So it's nestled and protected by everyone. But at the moment that he's moving forward, he moves forward 3 days ahead. And what's 3 days? He is the lamp within the lamps in Revelation. And he's going 3 days ahead of Judah. So it's like, oh, that's Messiah. You can see the light is going forward, but he doesn't need protection. The cloud is covering, and they are out there all alone, because 3 days later is when everybody's coming, behind them. And that just, floored me, just the visual of it, because I've been in Israel and I've seen the desert, and 3 days in the desert is nothingness. So it's like, whoa. And it's not this nice, Venezuela has some meadows and dune meadows, and they are like nice little rolling, soft sand kind of a thing. These are rocky. You can't just plow straight. It has, you have to go around places because they're like big craters and it's rocky. You can fall and hurt yourself. So it's not that easy to maneuver. And just thinking about that was intense. Just putting all that in vision. But what was my greatest aha moment when I read it I heard it actually for the first time was this has bothered me all these years, not knowing why they had to shave the priests. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever heard anything about it?
I've read it. I actually wrote Levites prepared down here about shaving their bodies and about the grain and the sin offering that happened for them to get them ready. But I didn't do any research on that.
I didn't either. It's just one of those that I think I had before or I had asked and never really got an answer. So it's always been like, what does that mean? Why do they have to shave their bodies?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just hit me. What is the part of us that is like an animal?
Our fur.
Yeah. So he wants that animal part of us outside. It's at the brazen altar where the sacrifice, the animal actually is killed. And then the blood, which is where the life is what comes into the Holy of Holies and the holy place. So he's saying, that hair stays out there.
It's also the thing on us, if you think about it, it's the thing that notifies us of danger. It notifies it's our senses. If you get your spidey sense, it's not really, it's that the hair's like, I tease my husband hits the top of his head all the time because he's bald. So he's always hitting because he doesn't have a warning system. So it's like our warning system that there's danger coming. It's our warning sister that something's happening. So it's interesting that it's you're exposed.
Yeah.
You're fully exposed. And I'm wondering too, it's kind of like you're thinking when in the garden, when there was a sacrifice and they were covered with fur. To cover them because they were naked and ashamed, right? So what happens is you become super vulnerable. When you're shaved down, there's nothing hiding any part of you from his presence.
Right.
They were completely vulnerable to him. I want to just quickly go back up to the lamps, and I did write something out that for me, this is an old revelation, and I had written it in my Bible that there were the hammered parts of the menorah. Simi, that I remember years ago when that hit me. It's the hammered parts of the menorah. And I thought about I don't know why, I just kept saying, why do you keep having me go back to that, Father? Because I tell you, when you're reading, if something sticks out to you, don't keep moving, just sit back. Like, why is this bothering me? Like the hair, why is this bothering me? And keep asking him. And the anointing will teach you. The anointing will teach you.
Yeah.
The answers are written in your DNA. He will revive it. He will share it with you. And he started showing me about the hammered places in my life. It had been perfect, and it wasn't a perfect polished lampstand. It wasn't perfectly polished. It was hammered, and there was hammered places to it. It's like, of course, you hammer it out, but it doesn't mention, super polished, smooth. It says hammered. And I'm thinking of those hammered places that capture and reflect the light, the way that those hammered places would reflect the light. And I'm thinking of the places in my life, Simi, that we're so called to be the light, right? We're called to be that. We're called now to be that. And there's the hammered places in my life that I think are no one should see. But what happens is, because of the hammered places in my life, Yeshua then gets to shine through those, and his reflection reflects off those hammered places, that I don't have to be ashamed because I have some hammered places. I don't have to be ashamed because a hammered object is not perfect. It's imperfect. It's perfectly imperfect.
Yes. Yes. And the beauty of it being one piece of gold. And if you think about it, Malachi 2:10 says, don't we all have one Father?
Yeah.
So it's like there is one God. Out of him comes, we all come out of it. He didn't like, let's make Charlie and let's stick her in there. Well, I'm going to make now Sombra and I'm going to stick her in here. No. He, from his own divinity, he made his image in each one of us. And when you're talking about that hammering, He hammered beautiful almond blossoms.
Yes.
And it wasn't like, well, it's all just bang in there and whatever came out, happened. No, it was well and hard, because it is so much easier just to smooth this, smooth that. And, like I said, even make them separately and stick them would have been just so much easier. But to grab one piece and then, warm it up to actually be able to be malleable, to be able to stretch it out and then make beautiful little carvings. And if you think about when you're talking, I'm seeing, the blossoms, and because of the, the complexity of the flower, then that means that, like you said, that the light doesn't hit everywhere. There are places where there's shade, there's a shadow there.
Yeah.
There's a darkness there. And we have lives that we have histories. We all have different testimonies that we can share of places that were dark, that were painful. And we probably would have written our story a little different if we had the choice now. But we know we had it once. And he said, I'm sending you, Charlie girl, to do this. And it's not going to be an easy road, but are you willing? And you had the free will to say, yeah, but I do. I want to do that. And you came with a purpose, and you came to live that out, knowing beforehand what you were choosing. It's kind of like he has this big play and he's casting all the different parts, and he says, okay, this is the part that I have for you. Are you willing to do your part?
Yes.
And
I'm going to skip over here to the chat over here. Chris Castro, I totally agree with you. Shaving does have something to do with a Nazarite lifestyle. I do believe that they were all taking a Nazarite vow at that time, that was part of it. But that is part of that Nazarite vow, is that full shaving is saying, I'm going to expose myself, and then I'm going to let him add to me. And so, yes, I 100% believe that before they continue
right.
all that,
But
it was part of them taking that vow. Yes.
right. And what I was saying was that when we read that, what does that mean to us? That's what I was saying. When I read that, okay, I know you did that. It obviously had a purpose and all that. What is our purpose for us? What are you saying to me? Because we're all wired, we are all different lamps. We have the same light, is the same power, the same electricity comes through every single one of us, but we're all unique. Not one of us is alike. So we have different colors, we have different shapes, we have different thicknesses. Some shine brighter, some have a dimmer light. We're all different. So when you read scripture, it's like, okay, what is he saying to you? Because that, going back to that piece of gold, right? So if that piece of gold is him, whatever I look like is not, oh, look how she looks. No. Look how daddy looks through her.
Yes.
Okay? So that's the important thing, is that whatever my lamp looks like, it's drawing attention to my dad. And my dad looks like this. There is a part of him that looks like me. There's a part of him that looks like every single one of you. And the only way you get to know daddy better is by hearing each other. That's why I love coming here. I just love being around his body, because I am always on a search for a treasure, and the treasure is him. And it's him in each one of you. So it's like, how is his light going to shine for me through Gail, through Sally, through Tracy, through Lori and Chris, and and every single one of you? When you share, don't ever think, oh, I don't know enough. I don't know if I should say that. I may be wrong. Well, so what? We've all been wrong once, right?
Yes.
We will be wrong again.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that,
Everyone's jumping up and down about, look how dad looks through her. And I think that might be one of the reasons that those wicks were facing inward.
inward.
They were inward because it was his directing his light. And I love that. It's like, then what happens is, do you start, like, it's the adventure of seeing others and say, oh, how is dad shining through him, even though he's being ugly right now, or she's being ugly right now? That's my mom's word for being not very nice. But they're not acting very nice. Where is his lamp in there? I know it's in there. So how can I help kindle that lamp? Do I have to help? Father, do you need to use me to trim the wick? Sometimes with my husband's sister, I like to trim some wick. I'm like, mister, but then he says, stop it. That's not your job. And so sometimes you just say, Father, I know you're there. And you just start praying for that person that he would be able to just shine so bright through them. I love that. I had written something, and I'm going to get just a quick, I have a couple nerdy things throughout this day. One of them is the word let me see if I can say it right. Juxtaposition, right? So in this scripture about this lighting of this menorah, and I promise we're going to get off of this, but in this part about lighting the menorah, the Hebrew part of it, I was reading this morning that there is a juxtaposition, which in this lighting of and in that happening with offering the Levites. So Adonai tells Moses, I want you to tell Aaron to go do this, and then I want you to go do this. And notice Aaron's the one who makes the sacrifice for the Levites, gets them ready, and then brings them to Aaron as an offering. He brings them as a gift to help them, right? So I was reading something today that there was that in that it was that Aaron, there was actually a struggle with Aaron, and this is oral Torah. But I'll find the information for you and I'll put it out for you guys. But he was saying that in that positioning and in the Hebrew, Aaron was a little disgruntled that he wasn't part of that he had to be inside doing the lamps kind of thing, that he was being told, this is more important. I need you to doing this, and I'm bringing a gift to you. So we start seeing apparently there's some grumbling happening in here that we don't really see in all the little verbiage, all the things of the Hebrew that's going on in here, that there was the positioning of these two things happening. He wasn't involved with it, but his part was greater because he was to kindle the lamps while the Levites were getting prepared to then, because he was already ready. He was already able to go in and be part of that. And then I see some, Pietro, I would love for you to unmute yourself. Tell us your download about this wave offering. Cause my jam, when it starts talking, we start going into Corbinats, that these people are lifted up for, interesting, the whole community comes and lays hands on these Levites. The whole community is part of this, saying, you're going to do this for us. And they're surrounding him. I love this group of women because the whole community, I know you're surrounding our team and praying for us. We're doing this to serve you, and that you're praying for us. This is the same thing. This whole community, it says, the whole community, I wrote it all big letters, laid their hands on the Levites. It says, B'nai Israel laid its hands, come and lay the hands. God commanded them to do that. So everybody was part of it intricately. Nobody was left out of doing the important things. And then it said that the Levites were then presented as a wave offering in place of the, remember, they're in place of this firstborn after the golden calf. They're the ones who took the place of this firstborn. We talked about that. Go back a few weeks when Halisa and I were on here, and we were kind of talking about that. Pietra, I know you're unmuted. Go for it, sister.
I'm not sure about my headphones. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now? Okay. So tell me if I've got the monkey at the tail. I don't know if that idiom works in your language. But so I had a thought of, so where does this wave offering happen? For what does it happen? And I can't believe that I forgot, because it was just the Omer count. So the wave offering happens at the Omer. And at Shavuot, they would wave the 2 loaves of bread. And then it said that those 2 loaves of bread would then become the property of the Levites. So the wave offering becomes the property of the priests. And I realized that these Levites who has been shaved and prepared now becomes, because it has been a wave offering, it now becomes officially the property of Yahweh. It becomes the property of the temple, and in a manner it becomes the property of Aaron, the high priest. So that was if I got something, but that's what I got from it, that now he followed his own doorway or his own entrance, his own sanctification rules. Followed his own sanctification rules in allowing the people to work in his house.
That's beautiful.
Well, think about that as Messiah. He is a shadow of Messiah, right? So instead of putting Aaron there, everything you just said, put Messiah there. He did all of it. He got mikvah and all that. And even his cousin says, I should be being mikvah by you, not me doing you, right? But he says we have to follow everything according to righteousness. So yes, everything. And then, and who are we? We are that wave offering, right? And we all belong to him. That is just so beautiful. It's a
That's
perfect.
beautiful.
Mhm, mhm.
You are now added into my notes of my Bible forever, Pietra. For the Pietra,
Don't forget
it is Shabbat there, so Shabbat Shalom, Pietra. She's joining us from South Africa, so
Thank you.
I get monkey by the tail. So yes, yeah, we love it.
Yes.
I went on and I just wrote a note about just before we keep moving on about because I wanted to reinforce one of the reasons that Moses was allowed to speak face to face with Yahweh was because he said that he was a humble man. And I was like, what does that even mean? And in this parsha, the word for humble that I think in using is called anav, A-N-A-V. And the gist of that is that you don't think about yourself. It's not that he was so, we laughed when he's like, I'm a humble man. I think we talked about this last week. Like, how are you a humble man by saying you're a humble man? Like you just like discredited yourself as humble. But that is not the case. It's actually being that word anav. I am an anav man. I don't think about myself because I have more important things to think about. And I wrote a note because I glanced over Bill Bullock's notes this morning, just as a little note, because he always has such beautiful, he was my teacher for years, and he and still is my teacher, beautiful notes about redemption. And I want to hear the redemption in this. And what is he saying about the redemption in this? And he was talking about the note he said about Moses and his humility was that the silence of self, it's this type of humility is the silence of self in the presence of what's greater than yourself. And so I just think that's beautiful. And I just wanted to mention that his humility was that he put the people first before himself. And we see that because we're going to see that as he cries out for the people, don't kill him. We've seen that how many times so far? Don't kill him. We've seen that he could have easily gone back and not gone into Egypt, but he went ahead and went in, and then he went through. And then we see him throughout the time, like, don't kill him, Lord. And he's advocating, which we have an example of the way that our Messiah advocates for us. So in this case, he's so focused on the plan. And we hear Yeshua saying this when he says, it's not my will, right? Not my will be done. And Father, he put us first. And if we look at that for Moses is the way he put the people first throughout the rest of this Torah, actually till the end, right? So, hey, and Misty, Miss 50-year-old today, the good news is you don't have to work in the temple anymore. You could just be an assistant. No, that's not true. You still have to work.
Well, she doesn't do the heavy lifting anymore.
That's right. You don't have to do the heavy lifting anymore.
Yes,
Isn't
that's
that
for the youngest.
Yes, we don't do the heavy. After 50, in the temple, they didn't do the heavy lifting. They could assist. They could do the assisting. Their wisdom was what was important.
They can shamar. They get to guard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we go into the second Passover. Are we here yet? Did I jump in too fast? We have 7. Oh, so they're
before you keep on going, the whole thing about the Nazarite is still holding in my head. You could, as a Levite, take a Nazarite vow, but not all Levites were Nazarites.
Correct.
Were Nazir. And that was the way the people could be like a priest by taking the Nazarite vow, but it was really for the people. That doesn't mean that they couldn't, but that was not exactly. If you guys know about Rabbi Foreman in the Aleph Beta Academy, he has a really good video there explaining both of them. What a Nazarite, what was the role of a Levite, and what was the likeness of it as a Nazir, and how the people could be like a Levite in that.
That's good.
So,
and you know, I don't want to skip this part too, is because when he actually, this is one of my favorite verses, and I have written it on my whiteboard, I don't know how many times, when Moses cries out and he says, Moshe is like, I'll say like Robin, Moshe cries out and he says, hey, I am not able to carry all these people by myself. This load is too heavy for me. How many of you cried out like, this is too big? Father, really? This is too much for me. And I love that he listens and he says, I'll take some of the ruach that I placed on you. I'm going to share it, I'm going to share it between and take this burden and I'm going to disperse it. And I love that for this whole time he's doing this, he says that he's even doing it to the people that were outside. Like, we had 68 showed up and 2 were actually out still. It didn't come all the way in. We don't know why. We don't know the purpose, but we are told already, this is when we start seeing this same little grumbling kind of happening, that what's happening through here is that these guys are already started with the priests, the people saying, well, those 2 didn't even show up. Why did they're prophesying, they're tattletelling, right? They're prophesying. We got 2 prophesying in the camps. And they are already, we see the spirit starting to happen, right? I feel like that's like kind of a little bit of a hint of what's going to happen, what's going on with these people. But when he down here, when he talks about the flocks and herds, okay, so then he tells all the people, they start getting so mad. Of course, they're wanting to get food. They're praying. It says, I'm going to go through this. Better than Egypt. Okay. Now the people say, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow because you will eat meat, because they start griping and complaining and they need some meat, right? They're crying, they're complaining, and they're done with manna. They're saying, at least this starts early. The grumblers among the people began their cravings. They began their cravings. I had written notes. Cravings is kind of self-explanatory. It wasn't a whole lot different in Hebrew. It was just basically the desires of our flesh started rising up. And when that happens, then all of a sudden they're saying, hey, remember when we could eat fish for free? Remember it was for free? This is hard work. Remember we could eat fish for free? It's like they totally forgot about how hard they were laboring all day long and having to work for these people. And we could kick cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions. But now we don't even have any. All we get to see is this manna stuff, right? And then he even explains manna to us, which I love God for this right here, because it's like many of you were like, well, what the heck is manna? What is manna? Well, he tells you in verse 11:7, now manna was similar to coriander. It was a seed in appearance like a gum resin. So he tells us exactly what it is. So the people were gathering it. We know what they do, but then they start wailing their families of each man in the door of his tent. And I want to say this. I want you to circle every time you see the word the people. When it says the people, because there is a significance in that. I'm going to hop to where I wrote this down. Wherever it says the people, it's always referring to those that are wicked, the people who are not in alignment with what the plan was. And then you'll hear my people. That's when those are the ones that were worthy. So when we see when this happens, and we see the meat all showing up in the camp and people eating, not everyone did. Only the people did. So I want you to be really mindful. It wasn't everyone. It was just not everyone said, not everyone was complaining. We're just talking about these people that are when that's happening. And one of the things that I want you to look at about Adonai's anger, and we'll talk about this another time, but when you see that word anger, I would really challenge you to look that up, because a lot is lost in translation with that word anger. We're seeing again a translation that's coming through a king that's a dictator, King James was a dictator who got angry, who had these intense emotions. We serve a God who isn't ruled by these emotions that are anger doesn't make him change his mind. He's not a God who changes his mind, right? This is something he knew already would happen. That word anger, the word picture of it, and you might have heard us say this before, is like a bull with the nostrils, like I don't want to do it. you know, this, that, like it's that
flaring of the nose.
the flaring of the nostrils. Yes. Do you have
Mhm.
anything else you want to talk about that? Because I think that's important as we go through this, and we're thinking, ooh, he's mad. And we're like, all of a sudden, like, God's mad. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, that when you are, depending how strong your anger is, because if your anger is physical, you went into survival mode. The important thing is whether you're in survival mode and you became physical, you're not just flaring, but you're like stepping and you're in the whole motion of the anger, throwing
Yes.
doors and, pressing the pedal and just, burning tire or whatever. That's the way I handle mine. I like to run on that car. But if you become emotional and it's just, you let your mouth run. Oh, he went around the leeks and onions. And, when you become limbic, neither one you're thinking. And that is the difference between our human nature compared to our Messiah's nature. He had a human nature just like us, but it never got disconnected from his reasoning, from his thinking, from the word of God, because that's what the mind of Messiah is the word of God that we have imprinted in our mind by him. It was never disconnected. You know why? Because he was so secure in who he was. He was safe in who he was. He was loved and connected to the Father every single second of his life. So that's what he's trying to work with us. And that's where I was trying to go with the shaving of the hair.
Yeah.
He's saying, if you have to work at this, because I want you to understand that when you are right there, when you're in survival mode, when you're in limbic, you are not reasoning with me. That's what he had to do with Job. He said, okay, let us reason. And what did he do? He asked questions. That's what you do to bring somebody out of that, any of those, ask questions. And they'll go, I don't know. I don't know. And truly, they don't know because they're not thinking. So you want them to be able to get to that place where they can think. And that's what he said. He just said to him, that to Job, okay, where were you when I did this? Where were you when that? So he is bringing him up to that level. So remember again, everything in scripture is for us to, we may not have a physical menorah in front of us, but we have the mind of Messiah. He is the anointed one. He is the lamp within the lamps. So how do we tend that lamp? We have to get out of our survival mode, out of our limbic, and we have to work on, I am safe. So when we lose it, when we can't think, when we don't know what to do, then we have to go to, I am safe in his arms. I am loved by him. Hug yourself if you need to. Our bodies need to feel that. And if you do, pat yourself, hug yourself, whatever you need to do in order to connect. And you connect your body and your mind to your spirit. And then the mind of Messiah, you're tending that lamp, that oil. And that's the only way we can reason with him. So then he says, come up here. That's why he put steps. He could have made a lamp that didn't need a steps, Right, he could have made a tiny little thing that he was just his right size. And everybody was able to tend to it. No, he wanted steps. He wanted them to go up. When we go up to Jerusalem, you have to go up. It's a higher altitude than the rest. So there is a reason that he's doing all that. And yes, Katie, pressure is very important for all of us, not just autistic children, but yes, it helps us. That's why those weighted blankets are so comforting. So we need that when you are not grounded. And this is a little hint for you moms that have children and you don't know how grounded your kids are. Ask them to draw you a house, themselves, and you guys, your parents. And depending on how they draw that, you will know how grounded they are, because a lot of them, they draw them in the air. Pay attention to that. The mom is floating, the kid is floating, the house is floating. Nothing is attached to ground. Or if there's a tree, the tree is the other one. The tree doesn't have roots. So when a child does that or doesn't put grass underneath a tree, he's not grounded. So that's where you need to work. Where are we? If my greatest thought always pops, is like, am I safe? Am I safe? If I have anxiety, if that, then that means I do not know in my knower that I am safe in him. So that's why if we're all Levites, think about this. He chose the Levites as their firstborn. The Levites were supposed to minister to all the Israelites, right? That's the second layer. But who are the Israelites? They are the firstborns of the nations. That's who we are. We've been grafted in to Israel, whether you were born a Jew or not. You're grafted in, and we are now firstborn priests to the nations. So in order for us to go into the holy place where the menorah is, we need to shave our flesh out there in the brazen altar. Okay, that's where we put it says that we are living sacrifices. So we come to the altar and we say, oh Lord, just burn away all this flesh. I need to be able to be cleansed. Then you go through the laver, right? And then you're washed off all impurities. Then the priest could enter that holy place where the menorah is. That's the light that we need. That's where we ignite. We won't want to become Christian creators and die like Aaron's sons because they use a different fire. We have to go in, and that menorah was lit from the fire that came from heaven.
Amen.
So, we come in, and that's where we have communion with him. That's where the bread of the faces, the bread of the presence is. And that's where the incense, that's where we pray and have that intimacy with him, so that all that has to stay outside. So before we come in, and this is what we are in the process of, none of us are completely there. Okay. So we're all in training. We're all learning how to feel safe in him, be loved by him, because let me tell you, when you feel safe by him, you don't care who's against you. When you feel loved by him, you don't care who doesn't love you. So those two things are so important. And one day we're up there on the mountain and we're like, yes, I am fearless and I don't care anything. I'm here for the Lord. And the next day we're down like Elijah, in a cave. She wants to kill me. She wants to kill me. There is no one out there but me. That's not true. There were tons of prophets that he had saved, but that's how you feel. You feel like you're the only one, and you're and somebody wants to kill you, and you're not gonna make it tomorrow or even the next minute.
Well, we see that with Joshua. We see that Joshua was out there as he's standing. He's like, and he looks at the angel like, "Who are you here for me? Or are you against me? Who are you?" And it's like the angels of the Lord. Sombra, you have your hand up. I want you to hop in.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's so much loaded in this, you guys. It's really hard. Again, we say this every week, I know, but this really is a jam-packed, Parsha, and I'm kind of excited to talk about Moses a little more. But yes, Miss Sombra.
So somebody posted in the comments about that anger that caused them having to go and get counsel and change their life. And I used to feel justified by being angry, and that word angry and rage. But the truth is, righteous anger, there's nothing wrong with anger, but you have to understand what anger is. Anger tells you that there's something wrong. And anger tells you that you need to make it right. And so when we talk about righteous anger, it's about just being justified. And it's not for the purpose of causing violence, whether it's verbal violence or physical violence. It's for the purpose of righting a wrong. And we need, so in that sense, we need to take our anger captive and make sure that it doesn't turn to rage, and make sure that our anger is becoming the tool that helps us right the wrong. So we can see injustice in the world, or we can see injustice going on in our households and correct that injustice or discipline that injustice.
Mhm.
And that's the purpose of our anger. But if we're letting our anger become rage and violence, that's not the purpose of our anger.
That's
And-
good,
and I've
Sombra,
been
because
guil-
we're seeing this in this section here, because we have
Mhm.
this, we see God with his righteous anger. He's righting a wrong. So in the process of him, what we're seeing is these people are craving my Bible. And one of the, I'm reading right now, I still am using my Tree of Life version, but I like some of the versions will say meat. They were craving flesh. They were craving flesh. And I really loved when I read that, Simi, because they're craving flesh. These people are saying, I don't want what, and I'm going to make a tie here. I don't want what you're providing for me. I don't want this. I want flesh. I want these things. I want the flesh. I need to eat it. And what happened to them is what happened is in that, of course, you have Moses then saying, how am I supposed to give all? There's 600,000 men in just the army alone. How am I supposed to feed? And what does he do? He goes, I'll make provision. We noticed him do this with a king, remember? They want a king? I'll give you a king. He
Mhm.
does the same thing. He's like, here, sure, I'll make the provision for it. Here you go. Here's the meat. Go ahead. Here's the things. Go ahead. He could have not had a tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden either. But he says, here, I'm going to have this here. Go ahead.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you not to do it, but go ahead. And what happens is, instead of taking the manna, and I sat down with this word this morning with manna, and I said, Father, what is this word? And I looked at it. Mem nun sophit. Mem nun sophit. That's the word manna. Mem
Mhm.
nun sophit. So for those of you who are following along with us, or you're working on your alphabet, mem, it's the waters that bring you to, that guide you and bring you to the next letter. Usually mem is a carrier, carries you to the next place. It's the waters of Revelations. It's living water that takes you to the place. And nun sophit, nun is the sun or the air, and sophit means it's the ultimate sun or air. So the manna was the waters that guided you to the ultimate sun or air. What is
Mhm.
that a picture of?
And it comes from heaven.
What is that a picture of? I don't see Yeshua anywhere in the Old Testament. Where is he? They were being provided with the bread of life
Mhm.
and the living water every single day. And they said, I don't want that. I want flesh.
Mhm. And you remember what they did with it? They process it.
Mhm.
They didn't
Yes.
eat it as it came. They had to, even
Pound
what
it.
God is given, yeah, they have to ground it and work at it and process it. That's what we do. We process. God gives us his word, and we create religions. We create theologies. We create all these institutions. We can't just take the word as it's given. We process it and make it in nice little packages that we can sell and that we can, shine through, etc. But one thing that is interesting. Remember, they said that Moses said, we're not leaving without not a hoof stays behind. So they had meat.
Yeah.
But they wanted the free meat.
Yeah.
They didn't want to kill their own cattle.
And they didn't have enough cattle. They would have never had enough. Even Moses says, we don't have enough. If we killed everything, we couldn't even feed the 600,000 army. They didn't have enough meat they didn't have enough. So if they had killed it because they were hungry and they did it and they said, let's kill our meat and eat it, they would have starved to death.
Right. But if you're so desperate for having something that is so important to you, you would at least kill one of them and eat a little bit once, a little bit each day. You would have rationed it. You would have come up with a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they didn't even want to touch their own. They wanted the free one,
Right.
because when they were in Egypt, it was given to them for free.
Right,
So that's what they
exactly.
wanted.
And he says, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, not just for a day, not 2 days, not a week. I'll give it to you for a month. I want you to eat it so much that it's coming out your nose and it becomes disgusting to you.
Yeah.
Does that remind you of a prodigal son where he had
Mhm.
everything and he ate it until he used it all up until it became disgusting, and he ends up having to come back. And
Mhm.
we read it this way, but there's also redemption in that. It's
Yep.
also that you're going to be so sick of the world. Some of you have been, I'm going to raise my hand. We're
Mhm.
allowed to
Mhm.
be in the world. Like, you want to be in the world? You want to do that? Go ahead. Because
Mhm.
my arm is too long, too short that it can't save you. So I'll let you go ahead. I'm going to, which is that in this scripture here, we see it in 11:23. Is Adonai's arm too short that I can see that my word will come true for you or not? Like, who do you think I am? My arm is not too short for this. I can
Mhm.
take care of this. Watch me. But for me, he said, okay, you want to do that? All right, go ahead and do that. I'm going to let you do it until it makes you sick, until what happens then is then you want to come back because
It
that
didn't
doesn't
satisfy
satisfy
you.
me. And guess what happens since we've left the garden? All we want to do is get back to the garden.
Mhm.
That's where
Yeah.
we want to get back to, right?
Yes.
So beautiful. I mean, the picture of this, like, quails coming from everywhere. I mean, it was for a long time. I mean, these quails were all over the place. But I love the picture of this manna. Again, going back to that. Also remember, there is an opposite. If there's an opposite. So if you're working in the negative part of the let me see I asked Brenda a question. When you see that would not be producing life. Perfect. Okay. So if you're operating in the opposite, like if you're not in the positive, like Hebrew letters or words, right? There's a positive or a negative. So the positive of the mem is this flowing you to revelation, flowing you and carrying you to the next thing. The opposite is chaos. The nun sophit, that nun sophit would be taking you to the ultimate air, the ultimate sun. The opposite, because it's this ultimate seed, the negative would be the seed that is not producing life, the seeds that are not productive. There's no good fruit in it. So it's taking you
Right.
to the end. We have the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah. So they didn't want this. So because they were negative about this manna, it was causing them to have chaos and desire something other than what it was meant to do. Does that make sense?
Yep. And remember, M is for Mayim, like you said, waters. Okay. What happened before day one? There
It was
was,
chaos.
over the waters. It was the Holy Spirit hovering over the water. So there is chaos without, waters, like you said, that's a contronym. It could be a peaceful when the Holy Spirit came and brought order, or if not, is chaos. And we're tossed to and fro, as James says, by every wind of doctrine. So that's why day two has to come in. Well, day one, order comes in, but in light. So that's him. The light is Messiah. And then day two, you have to separate upper waters from lower waters. We have to separate those instincts that we have. We do want things that are easy, that we don't have to work for. Just give it to me because I deserve it. We have to change that attitude in our hearts, and we want the upper waters. And the upper waters was where that bread was coming from, was from heaven, and accept it and digest it and let it nurture us. But if, when Sambra was talking about that anger, the anger that is not limbic and it's not survival reasons. So that's why he says you can be angry, but sin not. Because when you are thinking it through, you're not being ruled by it. Those waters are not just tossing you to and fro. You are at peace. The Holy Spirit is ministering to you. And yes, you can be angry, but in that anger, I'm not going to call you blinkety blank. You did this to me. I'm going to jump on you and hurt you. That doesn't happen. I would say, you have no idea how angry I am that happened. It really, really hurt me when you did that. And, conscious discipline has this little question that I love. And is you ask your kids if they're tattling, so-and-so did this. No, he hit me, all this stuff. And we do that to each other. We come before God and says, what Charlie did to me, and then this is what our Father says. are you telling me that to be helpful or hurtful? So if I am helpful, I want to restore this relationship. Charlie, that hurt me. You said this to me and I want to restore that. Not like, how dare you said that to me? Let me tell you what you deserve. When we do that, we're not using the reasoning part of our minds. We're using our limbic. I'm becoming just like you. We're just here biting each other's neck. So what he's saying is just come up. You can be angry, but are you helpful? Do you want to resolve this with Charlie? Or do you just want to hurt Charlie? You just want to tell me what Charlie did to you because you want me to spank Charlie, right? That's what you want. Because you know what? In the limbic and in the survival mode, we punish. We don't discipline, we punish. So we have to remember that.
I love that you just said this right now, because I'm praying. As you're talking, I'm like, Father, what is this? How can we apply even to a deeper level this? And instantly I felt in my heart, he had them in the wilderness of Paran is where he stayed. It's interesting. Paran starts with the letter Pei, our mouth.
Our mouth.
It was a Pei and a Resh and a Nun. So it's like, it's our mouth, but I mean, we don't go through the whole thing, but you look that up and you guys, you'll be like, oh my gosh, of course that's where this is all happening. It's in a place where their mouth was getting them in trouble. They were grumbling and complaining because they weren't looking to the sun. They weren't looking to the air. They weren't bowing their head and submitting themselves to the air. They were bowing their head and submitting themselves to the opposite, to their flesh.
To their flesh.
Their mouth, what came out of the mouth was what was in the abundance of their heart. Yes.
And we bite. We hurt each other.
Biting.
Yep.
So that's what was happening. So we hear, I'm going to jump back into my notes here. We see we saw little bits of biting starting all through this. We get to see it. And then we can just jump into this one with Miriam and with Aaron. They start speaking against Moses, right? I think it's really interesting that they are they're under the influence of these prejudices, right? Because who is I wrote this out. Who is the Cushite? Who is she? Where is she coming from? She's from she was the Cushi, right? She's from Noah's dishonored son that was sent out, right? So she's from there, the Cushite. That's also, this is very interesting in this in our time. It's timely in that these are also, turns out a lot there, it's thought to be that they were the Ethiopian Jews and most of Africa were the Cushites. So that's why you will hear maybe in Sunday school that they were super prejudiced, because now they were saying, why'd you marry her? It wasn't just because of the color of her skin, but it was because of who she was also. It was both, probably. I don't know.
Where she came from.
Where she came from. Like this is that tribe that we do not speak of. Like they're the bad ones.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're the woman at the well. Why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
So we're seeing what is he saying, that he takes on this wife, and there's people saying, I've read a lot of commentaries that, they were jealous because of his anointing. I don't see that anywhere here. That could be possibly true. What I saw was they were judging one of his decisions. They were judging his personal decision to take on a woman as a wife, and so they just start telling everybody. I think it was like, hey, Simi, can you believe she married that guy? Do you know where he's from? Can you believe what do you know? They don't know. I mean, of all the people, you think that God probably walked him through whatever needed to happen and he was going to work it all out. It was none of their business who he married, but all of a sudden it was their business. Oh, can you believe that leader drives a Cadillac or a Mercedes? I've heard this. Can you see the car he drives? Did you see what they do? Do you see you start judging the decisions of the people that are put in leadership over you? And you start making those
right.
in your Paran.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is, here we are, you and I are like, nyaka, how dare he?
Women, we're good at it too. Women, we're good at it.
So then what happens? Daddy calls us to the front, and okay, Charlie.
Right. It was like, he literally called the three of them to the principal's office. He said, bring those three, all three of you. I need you to.
Yeah.
I would have been scared, Simi.
I know, me too. And there we are,
Yeah.
Charlie and Sammy right in front of Father. And he tells us what's coming to us because we were talking about him and da 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 da. And this Moses that you gave us, da da da. Aren't we like him?
Yeah.
Why all this stuff? Okay. But then what happens when he finished talking to both of us? And I am white as snow and you aren't. Why? We were both talking against him, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what
Lashon
was
hurrah was coming out of both of our mouths.
both of our mouth? But after the discipline from our Father,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do? Nothing. I just stood there, white as snow, right? But what did Charlie do? Oh, Lord, please heal her. Please. Right? So I believe that's why he wasn't white, that you weren't white like me. Because think about Adam and Eve when they sin. If they would have said, "Oh, Father, I'm so sorry. We did this. Oh, and you told us not to. We're so sorry. Please forgive us." The story would be so different. But Miriam stays quiet as she could be. She's white. She should be the one asking for forgiveness. She should be the one saying, "Oh, have mercy on me. I'm white. I'm dead." Because that's what that meant. I'm dead, alive. So, it is interesting that that's not her response, but it is the response of Aaron. Aaron does plead immediately for her. Ask Moshe, "Oh, Lord, please."
And do we see that as Yeshua interceding for us? Yeshua is interceding for us of our Lashon hurrah. And we get caught up in there. Why did the boy have to why didn't he get this? Why did the girl get that? Well, let's just talk about this. It could be she's the Isha. She has the hay. She's the one who brings revelation. Let's be honest. She was probably the one stirring it up. Can you believe Aaron that he blah, blah, blah? And Aaron didn't stop her. Aaron didn't say, because women were just very few. I mean, there are men like that. But my husband's not, I know, Simi, your husband's not like that. They wouldn't be like, "Oh, did you hear so-and-so? Blah, blah, blah." But they might do it if they're watching the news. Now, let's just be honest. They might be griping on that case.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say, women, we have such a responsibility with our pay holes. Like this mouth here, this pay that breeds life or death. There's power in our tongue. We see that, gosh, James, Proverbs 18:21. I wrote verses, life and death in the power of tongue. James 3:6. If it's used improperly, it defiles our body, right?
Yes.
But we see that Yeshua was our ultimate korban chatat. He was our ultimate sin. He was the ultimate. He says that he's standing there as our adversary. He's standing there presenting our cases because the enemy can't accuse us because he's not a husband, right? So he can't accuse us of anything. We talked about that last week, but he is still trying and he's accusing. He's saying, "Look what she did. Look what happened. Look what's going on." And Yeshua's like, "I already paid that price." Like Aaron, why? Please forgive her for she knows not what she does.
Right. And the thing is too, I see different things about the high priest, and it is true. So was Moses, and that was one of the signs that God gave him, to have leprosy in his own hand.
Yes.
So God can do that to any of us.
Absolutely. I want to read a bunch of these chats thing, and I just want to remind you guys, Isaiah 52:7, how lovely are the feet of those who bring good news. The opposite is also true. Not so lovely are those who bring the grumbling, murmuring, complaining.
Yes.
And I want to just bring this to us. What is murmuring? It's anan. It's to take self-obsessed wail, to the cry of the entitled, the cry of the victim, the absence of the childlike trust, the absence of self-reliance. It's covetousness. Like, why do I want to have what they have? Why did they get that and I don't get that? I've been there. Why do I worked my whole life and why don't they have? That's covetousness. Ingratitude, focusing on what's wrong. All of that is that word anan. And instead of working on, I made a note. What did I screenshotted something off of Bill Bullock's testament. He goes, "This is what we're supposed to be doing instead. We're to love one another and do so fervently with a pure heart. We're to submit and be submissive to one another. We're to bear with one another. We're to forgive one another. We're to have compassion on one another. We are to be hospitable to one another. We're to have fellowship with one another. We're to speak to one another in love. We're to have peace with one another. We're to greet one another with a holy kiss. We're to inspire one another with songs and hymns and spiritual songs. We're to comfort one another. We're to edify one another. These are all backed up with scriptures, obviously. We're to exhort and to encourage one another in word and stir up love and good works. We're to confess our sins to one another. We're to pray for one another that we would be healed. We're to be kind and affectionate to one another. We're to honor and to give preference to one another. And on the other hand, the Holy Writ tells us that we're not to do certain things with one another. Remember, it tells us that we're not to lie to one another. We're not to hate one another in our heart. We're not to carry a grudge or an offense. We're not to deal treacherously with one another. We're not to wrong. We're not to lust for one another. We're not to speak evil of one another, or not to grumble against one another. Those are the things we're not supposed to do, right? Because most of the time we're operating out of fear, frustration, manipulation, stale, or we're lazy in our spirituality. So we've gotten stale. So what happens? All those things, then we're not focusing on the right things, operate at a harshness, not whatsoever things are pure, lovely, good report.
Philippians
We're not,
4:8.
yeah, we're not doing those things.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're not. So, but LaShawn Hurrah, sisters, I think that is one of all of our biggest issues.
And that's why, that phrase that Dr. Bailey uses summarizes everything you said. Are we trying to be helpful or hurtful?
Yes.
Because if I'm trying to be helpful, then it will be all those one another that you just read. If I'm trying to be hurtful, then I just want you punished. I just want you to get what you deserve. And it is this pointing of the finger. And that's not what he, I'm not loving you by doing that, obviously. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do we do with that? We are all capable of doing it. And like I said, today I can be as loving as could be, and tomorrow I bite you. It's like, what is this? Well, because I'm in my flesh. So in my flesh, I'll bite anybody around me. But it is because of him that he loved us first that we can love. So we have to go back up to that menorah. We have to go up to that anointed one so that we can be, loving and caring for one another and bear with one another. Because, this may be the 10th time that you do the same thing to me, Charlie, again and again and again. How many times do I have to tell you, don't do that to me, don't poke my eye? And then,
70 times 7, I'm supposed to forgive you, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm supposed to forgive you. So it's one of those things that it's a journey, and we have to really come before him and take care of our lamp. I'm not to take care of yours, and you're not to take care of mine. I'm supposed to take care of my own lamp and keep it lit and make sure that it's not, clogged up with garbage and stuff like that. So it is important that, this portion is very, very applicable to our lives, even though it feels like I'm not a Levite. I don't live there. What is all this? I don't shave my body. And, I don't need that. But, and that leprosy was not the leprosy that we know, is not the disease. Obviously, she went out and he said, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, Charlie. Yeah, I'm gonna let Simi be out of the camp for 7 days until she's clean, and then she can come back in. So it's not like
it wasn't a punishment. Someone posted a beautiful picture. When you would go outside of the camp, Simi, it wasn't that you were like had to sit next to a pole and you're like, I had to be here for a whole week because I'm bad.
To a pole in the desert.
It wasn't like that. He said, I love her so much that I'm not going to let her bring this pay issue she has with her mouth. I'm not going to let, and she's going to not just, she's an example, but we are the example in our home, in our communities. But you know what I'm going to do with Simi? While we were outside the camp, that wasn't a punishment. It was a
It's
time of
discipline.
refreshing. It was a
Yeah.
time of Brenda right now is spending time outside the camp because what's happening? She was broken. She's the things she's having to deal with in her life. We just got so empty that she said she needed to go spend some time outside the camp because she needed to be refreshed so she could minister out of a full cup.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the reason. Sometimes you're sent outside of the camp because you have leprosy. Simi's outside the camp because of I'm not saying Brenda had leprosy.
No.
Simi's outside the camp with leprosy. It's so that he can then say, sister, I
Mhm.
need to spend it. You need a timeout. I
Mhm.
need to spend some time with you to help heal you. This isn't a punishment, but we need some time together so we can work this out so we don't do it again and you don't infect everyone else with your bad attitude.
And he's there. You have to remember the
Oh,
Holy
yes.
Spirit is feminine, is your mother, is your nurturing, is El Shaddai, is that
Yes.
mother, the breasted one, is there with you, helping you get over this. And 7, remember, it's a week. She went out for a week. 7 represents perfection, completion. So there was a time that is needed. And let me tell you, I can give you a testimony of my own many times that God has done this with me. And it hasn't always been 7 days. I've been in a long 7 period until I learned it.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't actually, 7 days could be 7 years, can be 70 years. We have all the disobedient that did not believe stayed for 40 years out in the wilderness. So it's one of those things that it requires time. And you know what? He has all the time. He will take care of us. He says in Philippians 1:6 that he who started the good work in us will complete it. So he'll take his time and he'll do and he'll use, and iron sharpens iron. And I didn't learn it from Charlie. So then he's going to send me Petra. And then, I don't hear it from her either. So then he's going to send me Misty. And, he will continue until I learn it, because why? He loves me. He doesn't want me having that problem with my mouth. He's going to try to help me over and over and over until I overcome, because that's what we are.
And he'll chase your generations to fix it. If it's generational, he'll chase you down 7 generations to fix it. Some of you, maybe you're thinking, why is this happening all the time to me? That should make a ding, ding, ding go off in your mind. Ding, 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 ding. Why is this always happening to me? It's because he's trying to, you're outside the camp. And then submit yourself and say, how do we do this sooner? Same reason why they were like, why are you pushing us so hard? It's been 3 days. Can you just stop? We were walking for 3 days, because he's trying to get them somewhere. And they're complaining now because some of us can't be happy. Some of us can't be happy. Are you the people? Are you my people? That's what we have to pray. Father, where am I fitting in this? And make the changes in me to make that. You're not stuck, and you're not going to get, you're not stuck forever. He's saying, I'm trying to get your attention. This is all about your redemption. And I'm going to read some comments. Sombra says, humble means not thinking more highly of yourself, but it also not thinking more lowly of yourself. Humility is not hating or disrespecting yourself. It's seeing yourself as Yahweh sees you. Absolutely. Some of us think, oh, I don't think I'm too highly, but then you're all, I'm nothing. That's pride also. It's just the other side of pride. It's not humble. Holding a Nazirite vow is really hard. It's not something to enter into lightly. Absolutely. Erica says, I'm listening on the run again, but at least I got to check in. I'll fellowship in Costco with me. Yay. I have a list, Erica. I could give it to you. Let's see some more. I agree. I'm trying to grab the after the wave offering, the Spirit was poured out. Shavuot foreshadow. Yes, Pietra. I'm sad. Yeah, we jumped over the trumpets. Who here blows the trumpet or the shofar at the start of their Shabbat? Yes, I'd love to hear that. Who's blowing it? We saw Sombra just raise her hand real quick out of the corner of my eye. Jen says they're focusing on the negative, not the blessings. Yes. I mean, that happens. I do it. I mean, I literally, my husband and I walked this Parsha out this week. Can I just be full honest disclosure? We walked this out this week. Sarita says, I'm only went to she's going to talk about her stuff. Chris says, I experienced a moment of rage like that in 2017. It was scary and became a defining moment that caused me to get help to deal with the brokenness and the long season of
Good.
suffering I was experiencing for many years at that time. See, because
Awesome.
this was happening and you sought help so that you
Mm.
spent time outside the camp was healing for you.
Yes, I applaud that. Yes.
Yes. Yes, you're right. I know Holly Tora Hero, she's saying it sounds like when you were talking about your kid, us throwing a fits, it does sound like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Because we are in our child brain. We are not in a place where we can reason well when we're acting that way.
Yeah.
So if you're acting like a child with God, I think he'll treat you like a child, not to be confused with childlike, meaning trusting. But if you're acting like a spoiled baby, that's like when Moses says, why did you give me, I didn't birth these babies. Because he's saying they're all acting like a bunch of big babies. That's why he's saying I didn't birth them. When he says that in this parsha, it wasn't just saying like, these aren't mine, these are yours. He's saying all these people, not the holy ones, but all these people complaining, they're a bunch of babies. They're your problem, not my problem. I didn't say I volunteered for this. These are your people. So you deal with this. Katie says that we talked about this earlier about the pressure hugging. And yes, we do. Chris says, thanks. We do all have baggage, and thankfully the Lord redeems all of it and gives us spiritual authority to help over similar situations. She also says, Sombra, so true. Knowing the difference is essential. God sees your heart and knows the truth about the root of the anger. Amen. I love all that. Everyone's going on. Thanks, Simi. Great idea. Thinking of our prodigals, we have to get sick of the world, and many times we have to let them go, and we have to let them be so they come to the desire of the Father. Yeah, we have to quit interrupting the process because we do it, right?
Yeah, we're helicopter moms. We go and rescue.
Oh yeah. Lisa Maine, she says, when you were speaking of the manna and how we processed it, where you give the picture that you didn't have to process the manna, they couldn't eat it. Yahweh was giving it to them just to eat. Oh, let me read this better. When you're speaking of the manna and how to process it, when you were giving the picture of how they're processing it, they could just eat the manna. They could just eat it? ? Yahweh is giving it to them to just eat ? So she was saying, I'm thinking, Lisa, you're saying they had options and they weren't just taking it and eating it. They were trying to make it into something else, is what we were saying. Because I think there's a reason that they tells us that they pulverized it and made it into something else.
Right.
Yeah, I was just asking, it was more stated as a question, so sorry it wasn't very clear. But I was like kind of asking if you were saying, Simi, like, no, he gave it to them, like he gives us manna, like where we can just eat it. We don't have to do anything. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Actually, I heard that in the teaching and I never even thought about it. I thought, oh, well, they were like wafers, but they actually say that they were wafers. And so they were ready to eat. But they were like, okay, what is this? And actually that's what manna means. What is it? What is this? What you might call it? And then they just said, okay, I'm done with this little wafer thing. I'm not eating tortillas. I'm going to make something out of it. I'm going to make a taco. I'm going to, we tend to do that. And unfortunately, that was the problem with the Tower of Babel. Every altar that was given to God was supposed to be, just rocks, unhewn matzo ball soup. Yes. They weren't supposed to process anything. There were no hammering, no chiseling in the temple. So the rocks were brought in, and it was rock over rock, and they would make altars when they went, throughout the desert. Every time they made an altar and name God and offer a sacrifice, that was the way. He did not want bricks. He did not want them to get the earth and make it into something and then offer it to him. It's like, that's what I did for you. I got you out of the earth and I formed something and you are a gift to me. I don't need you to make a brick for me. So that was the problem with the Tower of Babel. So the teaching that this rabbi was saying was that that's what they did with the manna too. That it wasn't like, okay, it says there, it's not in this parsha, but it's in Exodus, and it talks about being wafers that were like honey. that melted in their mouth. So they didn't need to do anything to it. It wasn't like, oh, this is hard. I can't bite it. I can't do anything with it.
It wasn't like grain and everything that they had to process to make
Process.
bread. It was the opposite. I mean, they had bread, they could
Right.
do that too. But another comment here about Aaron is saying that Aaron was set apart. He could not become unclean. So the lesson came through her because he was the high priest. And if he was made unclean, he could no longer serve as the priest. That's a really good point.
Well, but yes, it is. But you have to remember Moses was made unclean to prove a point to Pharaoh. So yeah, it's true what she's saying. It's one of those Halisas. Yes.
Yes. I was just laughing because if I had a Halisa moment, because my dog is down here and is snoring. So I thought, oh, they're going to hear me. I have a Halisa moment right now with my dog.
So yes, you're absolutely right. They couldn't become unclean. But then at the same time, that was what God did with Moses at the burning bush. This is what I'm going to use as a sign. So
Pietra, I love this because you are the girl after my own heart. She says, honestly, my attitude would have been very negative if I had to go up when the cloud moved because there is no schedule. So for those of you who know me, I am a schedule girl. Like I love systems and schedules. And I'm actually working with a health coach who that's the thing she's working on with me, not about my weight, but about me feeling like it has to be a certain way, because then if I don't, I feel like I'm failing. And then when I go through this thing and I fail, then I go into this like I don't want to say depression, but it's in this place where then I don't get anything done because I'm like, oh, I did it wrong and I'm bad because I didn't meet my schedule and I didn't meet the expectations. So I love this because that's so true. I never thought of this. He's like saying, you're going to do it when I say go and not go. And I used to say that waiting was my hell. The in-between was my gray area was hell for me because I need to know what's happening. And that's one of the great things about this conference we're doing. That's one of the inspirations while she waits is because it is not hell. It is the beautiful time when we learn to truly relax in him and we know enough. We know what we need to know. We know where we're going. We know we're going to Canaan. We know we're going to the promised land. He's given us what we need to know. It's on a need to know basis, as they used to tell us in the military. It's a need to know basis and you don't need to know. And so if you knew all the things, you would probably be so afraid you would not keep going. And I was reading too, is that when the cloud would move, he was 3 days ahead of them. So that's why Moses said, wait for us, Lord. When he says, what Moses prayed, when Moses spoke and he prayed, where's his prayer? Oh, I moved ahead of, and his prayer is like, arise Adonai, may your enemies be scattered. For those who hate you, flee before me. So he's in that arise Adonai, that first part. I was reading a commentary today. Actually, the Hebrew of that is actually like, wait for us. Don't go too fast. Because he was moving ahead. The enemy, you're talking about 3 days behind, and he was 3 days ahead, and they're somewhere in the middle. They're kind of hanging out in the middle. Gosh, we're at the end, you guys. It
was 10:33 that you were looking for.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, well, Kim says that they may not have had to process the manna, but that doesn't mean that it was anything wrong with processing it. Yeah, he doesn't say anything like that. You just see that, and you can go back and read that part. I recommend do a study on the manna and the processing of the manna. Does it say the people process the manna or my people? Just curious.
Well, it is just where it's been mentioned, so in context.
So Cindy was just sharing a teaching that she heard from a rabbi about the processing. So again, with everything here, we highly encourage you go research it yourself. We do not pretend to be the end all. You get a new revelation of it. Please come and tell us so that we can share that as well. We're just saying this is what we heard from someone else. We're not saying this is the end all or anything. We can, the only way we would know that is literally if we were taking this line by line, Hebrew word by Hebrew word, and just discussing it. So thank you for that. I would appreciate it.
Can I just add to that? In other words, it's not sin to make a burrito.
That's why I said it, Sombra, because I knew you were making tacos.
Sombra is holding up a burrito that she just made. For those of you who are just listening, that's funny. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not sin to make a burrito, just like it's not sin to eat leaven. But we're going to use leaven as a picture during Passover.
Yes.
So in this situation, we're using the picture of eat it whole.
Yeah.
Not that you're not allowed to process the food, but
But you
that
don't
we
have
should-
to.
It's just, but there's another verse that says that you're supposed to eat the whole lamb, eat the whole basar.
Mhm.
And if you eat the whole basar, that word basar is also gospel. Basar means flesh. It also means gospel. So if you eat the whole basar, you're consuming the whole gospel. You're believing the whole gospel.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. And
So-
someone said, Sombra, that
make
you're
your
doing a
burritos.
wave offering of your burrito. So now you just made me hungry. Well, thank you guys for all of you who've joined us. We're going to jump into our after party, stop our recording so we honor your time. For those of you who listen, and we try to keep it an hour and a half. So I ask you to just jump over. Please leave comments so that we know we're there. We'll hop back over in Facebook. Those of you guys who are watching live there, we can hop over and we'll be able to jump in and comment with you and share with you. And if you're listening on a replay, for those of you who are wondering, like, wait, what's a good way for me to listen on a replay? Because you're not really good at finding us on Facebook. It's free for you to just go in and sign up in the portion part of the cafe, and all the videos are there. Everything's in there for you. So it's click to either watch them, or there's an audio download. You can download it and listen to it. So we try to make it easy for you. So if you're looking for an easier way to find it, would you just email us or message Sydney? It's it's info at the Rooted Cafe, KAFE, and Sydney will help show you how to sign into that. And those of you who are wanting more, you want the calls, you want all the things, you're like, yeah, I need more of this. I need more of the community. I want to be on that Slack channel. Like I told you, it's now $19.99 a month. You can go to therootedcafe.com. Sorry, this sounds like an infomercial. That was a complaint. I apologize, but I can't have you. I'm just sharing information. Take it, don't take it. I just want you to know so you can say you knew. If you have a friend who's in the cafe, please ask them for their link, because they get credit if you get their link from them. Otherwise, you can just go on there and click, I want to get started, and we'll jump in there and love all over you, and we get to have you all to ourselves. So awesome. Thank you again, Simi, for today. Thank you for
And-
joining us. There was so much.
And thank you for all the comments. There's 75
Yes.
of them. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
That was so good. Thanks. I can't wait. And for those of you, the conference is, you're saving your date. You guys will see in a couple weeks, you'll be getting all the registration links. Simi's going to be one of our, actually, I'm going to do breakout sessions. So she's going to actually be in a breakout session so that she'll be speaking and teaching. And if you can't already hear her expertise, those of you in her parenting calls are sitting at the well call, just teaching us how to get out of our scared little kid and be able to enter into his presence. You're going to love it. So love you guys. I have to stop
Thank you.
talking. Love you guys.